So my question is, how hard and how fast are you climbing right now? You know, what's going on? Because adversity, however you define it, is part of this thing we call life. It was Joseph Campbell who said, nothing is made out of perfection. When it's perfect, it's already done. Things have to break apart so they can come together again in a new way. And if we defined adversity, we'd all probably define it a little bit differently, but it's a disturbance that happens in our life that disrupts our pattern of thinking, where we're going. It disrupts us, it confuses us, it challenges us because we don't understand it a lot of the time. But you know what? It can be something that we feel like is ruining our life and we don't know what to do, or it can be an opportunity for transformation. Maya Angelou, oh, I love that woman. She's an amazing poet, a dancer, a singer, an activist, a scholar, a world-renowned author. She passed away in 2014, but I love listening to her. Sweet, big woman, sweet soul, but what a life she had. She explains in one of her books that at the age of 8, she had a really disruptive childhood. And she was sent away, I think, at age 3 to go live with the other parent, and sent on a bus by herself with her brother to go out and live with another parent, and then was taken back and whatever. But at age 8, she was sexually abused and raped by her mother's boyfriend. And she told her brother, and her brother told the whole family, and the family got the guy arrested, and he went to jail for one night. And he was released, and a few days later he was murdered. They thought by one of Maya's uncles. But she stopped talking. She went mute for 5 years because she was so afraid that her voice could kill people. And she stopped talking. But she used that time to become a voracious reader. She learned how to use her ears and her eyes to learn about life. And I'm sure that developed her into being the poet and the beautiful writer, and to be able to express herself and dance. And finally, when she sang, she did it so beautifully. But she said this, and I think this is exactly a definition of nurturing resilience in the face of adversity. She said, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to let it reduce me. I refuse. I know something bigger than that and better than that. She had to go way deep within herself to pull out the courage and the strength to go on and finally find the perfect and right time to use her voice. These are tumultuous times, as we've talked about. You know, I was listening to a female doctor talking about the level of stress there is in the world today. And she said one of the biggest problems about this stress in the world is that the news and social media feeds us all of these problems without any solution. It just keeps feeding us. And as human beings, we like to know the answer to things, right? I do. I mean, whenever I'm in a situation of adversity, I'll say, Kirk, I just need, help me find one step in the direction forward. I called Randy this week and I said, Randy, I have something, I need your help. How can I take one step forward because I'm stuck in not knowing what to do? And just with that one step, you know, it was Martin Luther King who said faith, which Gretchen sang about so beautifully in that song, Climb. Faith is taking one step on that staircase, even though you can't see the whole thing. It's taking one step forward. But when we get all of this bombarded with all these things in the world today, whether it's the climate, it's the political unrest throughout the world, it's the man's inhumanity to man, shootings, whatever it is, it's all of that. When we get it and we don't see an answer, it can build stress up in us if we're living our life from the outside in. If we're letting these external experiences define us. And so often that stress turns to fear. And fear is the biggest enemy we have, really. Because that fear, if it goes, and it can be a motivator. I mean, I'm sure we've all used fear to motivate us to do things, if that's managed fear. But if we let it be unmanaged and let it take over our mind, it can become prolonged stress in us that can cause all sorts of problems and issues and not allow us to move forward in the way we know we can. That fear. Ernest Holmes defines fear as a mental germ in the collective consciousness. If we realize that the whole world is filled with all the thoughts of all the people in the whole world, the collective consciousness from all the time, fear is a mental germ and it's contagious. It's very contagious. We can catch fear from other people, that energy, but we can also catch faith and love, because fear and faith, hatred and love use the same power. There's only one power. They just move in different directions. And the cure we have right now to change any fear we have into faith, or any anger or anxiety into love or confidence or courage or whatever we want, is by our minds. Our minds have such power. We say, well, let me just say, when we are facing adversity in our lives, there's two things we can do, just two little tools that if we think about pretty easily, it can move us in the direction of nurturing our resilience and building it. We have resilience in us, but it needs to be nurtured, it needs to be cared for and managed so we can grow it, because we don't know when times of adversity are coming. You know, the only thing that's constant is change, and we don't know when the change is coming. And if we can get us prepared, you know, the trees that have the long roots that support them in the wind can't grow the roots the same day the wind starts. It just doesn't work like that. We have to plant our roots and get our firm faith and belief in something greater. So the first thing, when faced with adversity, we have to know that we are way more powerful than we think we are. Right now, we're way more powerful. We have in us right now wisdom and courage and guidance and brilliance that's just waiting to be ignited. It's that divine urge we talk about, that spark of God that's right there. It's always there. There's never a time it's not there. We have to learn to use that. So I read a quote that I'm going to read to you in a minute that was from a person I didn't know too well, Albert Camus, and he's a French playwright, essayist, journal author. And he wrote a lot. In fact, he, in 1957, he was the second youngest person to get the Nobel Prize in Literature. And he wrote a lot about living a meaningful life. And he said, living a meaningful life means you make the most of the limited time we're here on earth. You think about living and how you're going to live and be true to yourself. Be true to yourself, to be responsible for your actions, and to infuse your life with meaning, doing things on purpose and making them count. And here's what he said. This just, when I read this, it just made me think, oh my gosh, this is the definition of nurturing resilience in adversity. He said, in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. An invincible summer, a light, a goodness. We suffer because you and I at times don't focus on the affirmative side of life. We're not focusing on the affirmative side of life, but we're worrying about things that 95 or 7 or 8% of them don't happen. You know, it's not that we're lazy. We just spend our energy thinking about the wrong things, right? We think about what could happen, what might happen, instead of how can we use this life for the better. Kirk and I watched a Netflix, it's a 4-part series, and many of you have probably seen it, but it's a documentary, and I love it. I love it because it fit right in with what Albert Camus was saying. It's Live to 100, the secret of the blue zones. And it's about a man named Dan Buettner. And he grew up, and he wasn't a great athlete, he said, but his grandpa wanted him to be an athlete, but his dad said, just be an adventurer. Just approach life as an adventure. And so he decided he'd do that, and he got on his bicycle, and he won, I don't know how many awards for bicycling across 5 continents and doing all these great things. But then he said, adventure is good, but I want to put meaning into it. So he found blue zones in the world where the most people in that area are living to past 100. And he said, I want to know the secret of a long life. Now, when you watch it, you can't compare yourself because several of these are little islands or remote places, but one of the places was in Loma Linda, California. We haven't seen the last 2, so I don't know, or the last one, I'm not sure, but we don't know what the rest are, but we know what 3 of them are. Loma Linda. Now, they didn't all say the same thing. I mean, one of the communities, they were all communities, and that's one of the second thing I step. Besides knowing you are powerful beyond measure, there's one other thing, and that has to do with community. But they're communities, and they work together, and they play together, and they help each other, and they support each other. And some of them have very strict rules on, they all had spiritual traditions that they followed, and some were very strict on a vegetarian diet, no smoking, no drinking, nothing. They just were pure and clean. And another one of them, and I'm sure this was the one from Italy, when Dan asked her, well, what's the best tea to drink? And she said, wine. You know, so it's not that there was one thing that for all of them, except they were in community. They looked at age as not putting someone out to pasture, but as people get wiser and better, age is to be revered and looked upon as something wonderful. And they all had activity. They kept busy. They had meaningful lives, so they were doing things that made sense, that helped themselves and other people. But it really gives you a chance to go, oh, that feels so good, because I can see what the things I'm doing and the things I could improve on. But it's a lot like what Camus was saying. How can I live my best life now? And you said that in your prayer, Dave. Live my best life. What can I do? The forgiveness, or what needs to be let go of, so I can develop that faith that's in me right now. The faith that's there. Something stronger in me now, because that excitement's there. So the second, you're stronger than you think, and the second step to building resilience is you are never alone. So that goes, which we'll talk about community in a minute, but also our relationship to spirit. We're never alone. We know that God is all there is, so it's ever present all the time. And we have to change our mindset. We have to alter and adjust our mindset so we can be in alignment with what is good and right and true. And when we fall and make mistakes and forget, we ask someone to help us, to pray for us, or to give us a next step in our journey, or to guide us because we don't know what we're doing. Or we sit down with ourselves and we alter ourselves and we tune in to that God essence. And sometimes things are so dark, it's hard, it's too dark. Now, we can decide when we can do it on our own or when we need help. But if we just sit and we choose meditation and prayer, and we sit there and close our eyes and know that we can lift our mind, because we're always we sometimes say we're not in control. We always have control to lift our mind, to change our thoughts, to do something different, to make things better. We always have that power. Sometimes we need some help, but we always have that power. And wait and just open, let go, make space until that sun comes in. The light of spirit connects with our light and pulls us up. And that darkness and dampness and trouble and upset and concern is stilled. And color and warmth and goodness fill our body. We can do that when we remember we're not alone. So the 2 steps is just know right in this moment you're more powerful than you think, and we're never alone. And that was the other thing that really got to me from these people. Now, one was in Okinawa, an island in Japan, and Sardinia in Italy, and then Loma Linda. I don't know where the other 2 are. But they're kind of isolated places. But we can do it here. We have a community right here that supports each other and believes in each other's dreams and helps each other. Because service was the other thing that people said, made their life matter the most. It's just taking care of themselves, but doing something for other people that makes a difference. So I want you, if whatever's going on in you right now, if there's any fear, I just want to do this little practice, and I don't know where it came from. I just found it, but how many of you ever have your heart feel kind of tight and afraid? Yeah, tight and afraid because there's things if they're concerning and we don't know how to handle them when we get concerned. It says behind all the hardening and tightening that we feel, that anxiety, the stress, there is fear. It's fear there. And if we have the courage and the vulnerability to touch that fear and listen to it for a minute, see what is that fear that's halting me right now, that's stopping me from being this resilient man or woman right here and right now, there's a soft spot behind that. The soft spot. And it says that soft spot is untouched by pain. It is wise, unbiased, and strong, and can awaken and guide us at any time. And that's for us. And remember, it was Jesus who said, "Fear not, little flock, little flock. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom right now, right here, and always." Adversity can make us either hardened, resentful, angry, and sometimes it starts there. But it can also make us softer and kinder and more caring to ourselves and one another. Joseph Campbell said, "The purpose of our journey, the whole purpose of our life, is compassion for ourselves and others." That's the purpose of life. When we can find love and goodness and kindness in the goodness and in the adversity. When we can meld it together. The compassion, he said, adversity can help us expand our compassion and bring us back beyond the pairs of opposites. Bring us beyond that compassion brings us together. And he said the goal of compassion is to bring things back together again. And I don't know about you, but I think our world right now is calling on us, all of us, to bring things back together again. And of course it starts right here and here inside ourselves. So I thought it might be kind of nice if there's a collective power of humanity, that we have a real strength together. We are much, much stronger than the sum of our parts. We're stronger together. So I thought it'd be really nice if we all stood up. It happens to be 11:11. That's a great time to stand up. I think it's great because I want to just imagine if we look at nature, as Frank Lloyd Wright always said, look at nature, love nature. It will always teach you and guide you and tell you what to do. And if you just imagine right now, like the lotus plant that grows from the mud and grows through the mud and follows the light to blossom into a gorgeous flower. It has a little bit of adversity there. Yuck. But yeah, it goes into this beautiful flower. Or just a seed that has to trust, again, something it cannot see, that invisible power to break through its shell and break through the ground to become all the beautiful greenery, landscape, flowers, vegetables, everything we see, and the strong roots we grow to keep us strong while we're going. So I just want you not only repeat these things for yourself, but I want us to send them out to this beautiful world at large, and wherever it fits in your own family, in your own house, if it's in the community, if it's the world at large, wherever you want, more resilience to adversity, more understanding that each and every one of us is more powerful than we think, and none of us are ever alone, no matter how lonely we feel. I'm going to say the phrase, and then I'd like you to say it, okay? I know faith transcends fear.
I know faith transcends fear.
That sounds so good. There is something in me right now greater than this condition, and it can dissolve it. So whatever that adversity, that problem, that upset is, there's something in all of us right now that could make it better. And I lay my fear aside, and in confidence and complete faith, I turn to the one divine presence to guide and direct me. And last but not least, I choose right now to live my best life. And so it is. And give yourselves a hand for being part of the collective consciousness for good. I love you all, and I know that goodness is blossoming right here in this moment, and so it is.